On August 20th, 1920, a meeting was held by representatives of the Akron Pros, Canton Bulldogs, Cleveland Indians, and Dayton Triangles at the Jordan and Hupmobile Auto Showroom in Canton, Ohio. This meeting resulted in the formation of the American Professional Football Conference, APFC. The league's first president was Jim Thorpe, without a doubt the most famous athlete of his time. Thorpe helped add credibility to the sport. It began play in 1920 and consisted of 14 teams. Only two of the franchises still exist today. The Decatur Staleys moved to Chicago in 1921 and were renamed the Bears 1 year later. The Chicago Cardinals franchise now calls Arizona home. The Akron Pros won the first APFA NFL championship with the record of 8-0-3. In 1922, the APFA changed its name to the National Football League, NFL. At the end of the 1932 NFL season, the Chicago Bears and the Portsmouth Spartans tied for first place. So to determine a winner, the NFL held its first ever playoff game. The Chicago Bears won 9-0. The popularity of the game also led the league to start holding annual playoff games. In 1933, the league divided its teams into two divisions for the first time, with the winners of each division playing in a championship game to determine the NFL champion. Up until the 1960s, the NFL was the dominant professional football league and faced little competition until the American Football League, AFL, established itself. The AFL began to challenge the NFL in popularity, gaining lucrative television contracts and engaging in bidding wars with the NFL for free agents and draft picks. The two leagues announced a merger on June 8, 1966, and then officially merged before the 1970 season to form one league with two conferences. From 1966 to 1969, the leagues would hold a common draft and championship game.
1965, the National Football League and the American Football League were at war, fighting for players and fans. The owners realized that if the game were to survive, a merger would have to occur. In June of that year, a tentative agreement was reached.
The concept of the Super Bowl game was part of the original merger discussions between Lamar Hunt and representatives of the American Football League and representatives of the National Football League. A lot of the old NFL owners were dragged screamingly into the merger, and they weren't anxious for a postseason classic to become known as the Super Bowl because they felt that the NFL champion had sufficient dignity without having to play the AFL champion.
The championship game was called the Super Bowl. It was held 4 times before the merger, with the NFL winning Super Bowl I and Super Bowl II, and the AFL winning Super Bowl III and Super Bowl IV. After the league merged, it was reorganized into two conferences, the National Football Conference, NFC, and the American Football Conference, AFC. The man who helped grow football to one of the most popular sports in the world is former Commissioner Pete Rozelle.
January 26, 1960, Pete Rozelle is elected Commissioner of the NFL on the 23rd ballot. When Rozelle took over the NFL, they had 12 teams worth about $1 million each. By the time he left, 28 clubs were worth more than $100 million per. But it was in dealing with TV that Rozelle made his real mark. In 1960, only the championship game was on national TV. But Rozelle spearheaded a bill through Congress that legalized single network TV contracts for sports leagues. He negotiated a national package that replaced the team's individual deals. 1962, CBS paid about $4.5 million for television. Today, the league gets more than $2 billion a year. And Rozelle was also responsible for a merger with the AFL in 1966. Pete Rozelle retired in 1989, leaving a legacy that still stands.
In the 1970s and 1980s, the NFL solidified its dominance as America's top sports. The NFL has become an unofficial national holiday and the top-rated TV program most years. Monday Night Football, which first aired in 1970, brought in high TV ratings. Paul Tagliabue was elected as commissioner to succeed Rozelle. His 17-year tenure was marked by large increases in television contracts and the addition of 4 expansion teams. The league's current commissioner, Roger Goodell, has focused on reducing the number of illegal hits and making the sport safer. Top 5 plays of 2014.
Terrence Williams with this toe tapper here in week 6. That's on 3rd and 20 to set up a touchdown and a 30-23 win.
Not this one.
Yeah.
Brent Grimes.
He says that's better than Odell's, and he has a strong argument.
Well, I mean, think about it. It's a pick. He's going backwards. He takes it away from Calvin Johnson. That's impressive.
But the Rams' special teams play here. This was the misdirection punt in week 7 against the Seahawks, their opponent this week. Everyone thought Tavon Austin was going to take the punt, and instead Stedman Bailey, 90 yards for a touchdown up the sideline.
I love Pete Carroll today said of Jeff Fisher's tricks, he won't surprise us if he surprises us. That's what he said this week. Marshawn Lynch, this is surprising every time you watch it because you still don't know how he did this last week.
It's so good.
It's Beastquake 2.0, diving, if you want to call that, into the end zone, Marshawn Lynch. And then number 1, Lindsay.
Obviously, the only play that can hold Marshawn Lynch at bay, and that is Odell Beckham Jr. in week 12. And that one-handed grab that is possibly, arguably, the best catch ever in the National Football League, and certainly was this season.